I think we're ready to get started for the deep dive here this Monday morning. It's September 27th, and excited for everybody that's joining the deep dive. Looking forward to getting started this morning. If you saw the update, we're going to be talking about what's coming in the fourth quarter. Big question right now about, how will we wrap up the year? And I'm going to start to unpack a little bit of that relative to what experts are struggling with right now, and that is really forecasting the fourth quarter. So we're going to talk about that. If you joined last week, we talked about interest rates and some interesting developments in the last week relative to interest rates. Now we'll see what happens here, but sort of a first nod at maybe looking at those going up. Then we have folks from the mortgage business that join here in the morning as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they think. As always, on Monday morning, we start the deep dive at 11 Eastern. I'm going to share my screen and kind of present this question. What about the fourth quarter? This is the question that a lot of people are asking right now. Typically in a normal year, we would start to look at projections going into the fourth quarter, projections going into next year. And we're not seeing a lot of forecasters project what's going to be coming. And I'm going to kind of do my best today to unpack why that is and show you what I think is really what we need to be looking at right now. So I'll start off with a quote here from CNBC. It says, fall is usually the start of the slower season for the housing market. But nothing is unusual in today's pandemic-driven housing market. Potential home buyers are seeing a slight rise in inventory and consequently rushing back into the fray. Now, I don't know if they're rushing back into the fray, but certainly folks are coming back in. Goes on to say mortgage applications to purchase a home jumped 7% last week from the previous year. That is the highest level since April of this year. So CNBC is saying, we're not exactly sure what's happening right now because nothing is normal in today's market. And I think at the bottom, the bottom line, so to speak, is that home sales are very difficult to forecast right now. And it's because of these three lines right here. Now, this is a look at home sales from 2019, 2020, and now in 2021. You see the blue line there of 2019. 2020 in the orange line, we know what that was, and the green line of 2021. And the bottom line is that 2020 was nothing like a normal year. If we want to look at a normal year, we have to go all the way back to 2019, and you see that right there. And we saw this dip in 2020, and then we packed more business into the second half of last year than we did in the first, certainly, and we kind of did double duty in the housing market, and it gave us this sort of anomaly year. Now I want to give you kind of a perspective on why it seems right now, why you're seeing a lot of the headlines that are saying the market is slowing down. It's because of this. You remember, if you follow the deep dive, you've been following Keeping Current Matters. On the front end of the year, we said, hey, look, year over year numbers dropped last year during the pandemic. And we're going to see, we're far ahead of where we were this time last year, but don't get too caught up in that because we saw, numbers drop in March, April, May, when folks took their homes off the market, when the business slowed down. And naturally, the business that we saw was ahead of the previous year. Now we're heading into a time where the business that we're doing is going to be below where we were this time of last year because of all the business we packed into the second half of the year. That's why it's getting very, very hard for forecasters to say what's going to happen because they don't know right now. But if we really want to look at where are we at in the housing market, we have to go back to 2019. And the reality is we're beating 2019, which was a very, very good year. This is a look at 2019 compared to 2021. You see we're well ahead, but many think or may feel like we're not ahead. But if you start to go back and look at previous existing home sales, going all the way back to 2012, this is what that looks like. And 2019 was a better year than just slightly 2017 edged out 2019. But you draw this line across there, one of the best years in the last 8 years. And as we kind of go forward and we compare where we're at in the market, we have to look back at where we've been. And so, as we start to look at this and forecasters start to look at this, sales become very, very difficult to forecast. And here's why. If we look at the green line here, and let's say we just went straight ahead, we're going to end up in a situation where half the headlines are going to say, we're ahead of 2019 and we're ahead of a good year. And the other half are going to say we're below. And for a second month in a row, we're behind in home sales for a third month in a row. And be ready for that because of what happened in 2020. Just like we said on the front end of the year, don't get too excited about how far ahead we are in the market year over year. This time, don't get too, depressed, so to speak, and where we're at as headlines start to come out to say, hey, we're down year over year. For the second month in a row, we're down. Foreclosures are up. We're heading more into that market. And being prepared, being the smart agent today, is understanding that and taking a look at it and helping your clients see that as well, because they're certainly going to see that in headlines. Now, we believe the best metrics, so to speak, to look at to start to understand this issue is active listings. And this is a look at active listings in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Remember, I said we have to go back to a more normal market to understand this market. And traditionally, active listings peak in the fall. And you can see here, August, September, October, depending on the year, is when active listings peaked. Now, what happened in 2020? Active listings actually peaked in 2020 back in April. And for the remainder of the year, we depleted listings as we went throughout the year. And we know all the reasons for that, the meaning of home, interest rates, people saying, we're going to do this now, we're going to go ahead and buy the home that we need. And the challenge has been making up for that. And while listings were depleted, sales spiked in the second half of 2020. And that's been the challenge we've been faced with as we've gone through this year. Now, the question really starts to become is, when will listings peak this year? So this is a look at 2020 over 2021. Started out the year very, very low in listings. We've started to come back a little bit, but the question is, when will they peak? And that's what forecasters are really struggling with right now. And that's the question I would say. That's what you want to look at. You want to know what's going to happen with pricing? Look at listings. You want to know what's happening with the market? Look at listings. It's all going to be about listings as we go into the fourth quarter. And there's kind of three scenarios. Scenario one is, we continue to grow in listings and we don't go through that traditional fall slump in listings, and we have a phenomenal year. The second option is we kind of level out and we have a good year, or the third option is we do peak and we go down, and it's a challenging fourth quarter. Now, I think there are a lot of reasons for a couple of ways it could go, and I think this is going to turn out to be the question in the fourth quarter. And I think somewhere between 1 and 2 is probably where we'll end up. And I'll give you a couple of reasons for that. That I believe listings will continue to grow as we go into the fourth quarter. First, there's no doubt pin-up selling demand across the country, and homeowners are going to be more comfortable putting their homes in the market as more and more people get vaccinated. We get through all the things that we've been dealing with. 2, construction is starting to take off. There have been challenges this year with lumber costs, material costs, all those things, but builders are building. And 3, the end of forbearance will create listings, no doubt. Those coming off will not have to go into foreclosure. We've covered that extensively about the equity that's in homes, and specifically the equity in homes that people that are in forbearance. And so I think there are a lot of reasons that listings will continue to grow, but this market going into the fourth quarter is all about listings, all about getting out there and talking about those that are thinking about selling, those who are on the fence. Last week when we were on the deep dive, we talked about the cost of waiting. And there's a great resource for you to use inside the KCM member area, where you can go in and put in the price point that you're serving and show them what it looks like in a rising interest rate environment. And I think that will become the bigger question as we go into the fourth quarter, and expect to see a lot of people say, okay, look, if interest rates are starting to rise, we're going to go ahead and do something now. And that becomes the real question. So, always on the deep dive, we want to give you what you need to be able to have conversations, make a video, or explain what's happening in the market to all your clients. And it's certainly my hope today with this. And just know forecasters are struggling right now with what to do relative to what's going to happen in the real estate market, because they don't know what's going to happen. So, Aaron, questions as folks are having those.
So far, just one.
Okay.
The graph, the home sales graph.
Yeah.
Graph in dollars or units?
It's in units. So that's a great question. So those are existing home sales at an annualized number as recorded and published by NAR. So a great question there today. Any other questions?
So far, no.
Okay, good. Well, as always, thank you for joining the deep dive. We love having everybody on and starting their Monday off this way. As always, if you're not a KCM member, you can go to trykcm.com, get a free 14-day trial, get all of this information, brand it with your brand, and use that as you're out in the market talking with people. Use the social post, use the videos, use the buyer and seller guides, and everything you do. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you back again next Monday on the Deep Dive. Take care.